This entire video is scripted because there is a lot of information that was collected for this video, so I'll often be looking down on my tablet and my notes because my memory is very precise when it comes to nonsense and not when it comes to actually important things. There are a couple things wrong with media in the current moment, but first let's get to some good news because Odyssey did something good for once. Live 105 in San Francisco has returned to the airwaves after a 2-year hiatus, and this video was recorded before the switch, so it's possible that that backfired. Does that mean the 2 formats you killed in New York are coming back? No. Now let's talk politics. The first topic of ranting is regarding the now reversed decision to shut down OETA. The Oklahoma Educational Television Authority is the state of Oklahoma's PBS network with stations in Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Eufaula in eastern Oklahoma, Cheyenne in western Oklahoma, and 14 other translators nobody cares about. A little over a month ago, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt vetoed a bill that would allow OETA to continue being the state's broadcaster until July 1st, 2026, meaning OETA would have to shut down after their contract expires on July 1st, 2023, or as long as the money that they have to operate from donors. And the reason for vetoing this bill? Influencing our children to be gay. There are maybe only like 10 to 20 PBS Kids episodes that feature gay characters. Shutting down OETA would make Oklahoma the first state to shut down a PBS station. What a victory for the state. The decision was so poorly handled that other stations had to make statements about why this was a terrible idea. The previous year, Stitt vetoed a bill that would send OETA $8 million to replace transmitters for the WARN network, which helps sends out WEA alerts on your phone, which is how you get Amber Alerts and severe weather warnings on your phone. That itself has gotten so bad that recently Amber Alerts weren't being set to phones, broadcast on TV stations. No, the only way you could see Amber Alerts? Twitter. And people thought I was crazy. Okay, so back to gay, because I don't know a single person who didn't grow up on at least one PBS Kids show. Most of the influences in the LGBTQ community come from, I don't know, I'm not gay. But I'm sure a lot would not say PBS, and I already looked it up. I mentioned my weird memory from earlier, and I don't remember a thing about watching PBS Kids, except that Super Y was cool. Most of what I remember is, but Governor Stitt, have you ever thought, hey, maybe being gay won't end the world? The other thing Governor Stitt said was that OETA belonged in 1957. Luckily, this story does have a happy ending because his veto has been overridden, so OETA is here to stay at least until 2026. But even though our story has a happy ending, doesn't mean other states won't follow. You ever heard of a place called Florida? I don't know, gay is a bad word there or something. On to our second topic of business, which is the removal of AM radio in future vehicles. AM radio may seem like it's dying, and it is, slowly, but there are several reasons why AM radio should remain in vehicles. There's one extremely dominant factor, but we'll save that for later. But first, we'll get into the sports stations that are still on AM. Some even having big teams affiliated with them. All of these teams showed on screen still have radio homes on AM radio, and that's not even including Canadian or college teams, and we'll get to high definition later. People may not be able to access the play-by-play or the sports talk shows that they enjoy, and as kind of funny as it sounds, gamble on. Now, the main dominant reason why AM radio needs to stay is because there are still a lot of news stations still on AM radio. While there has been an increase in AM stations moving to full power FM stations such as KYW on 103.9 Asterisk, KNX on 97.1, and WINS on 92.3, which I can kind of see both ways of who wants to keep alternative rock and who wants news, but that's besides the point. Not having those news stations in an emergency is absolutely crucial. New York news stations such as WCBS and WINS and more that I'm not going to get a deep dive into had terrific coverage of September 11th as it was happening. And even including the sports stations, what are we going to do? Stream them? I mean, while the quality will certainly improve, you have to think about rural areas that have limited cell reception or Wi-Fi. The only way to keep these AM signals in vehicles without having actual AM is HD radio. HD radio can allow a station to broadcast up to 3 additional channels, and what a lot of stations do, including KXXY here in Oklahoma City, is broadcast AM stations in crystal clear quality on an HD subchannel. All of these sports stations from earlier, if you narrow down the stations that run on HD radio, it narrows the amount of teams significantly. The most notable thing in the way, though, is WGN, which has no FM or HD repeater. In the extremely slim chance that someone from WGN is watching this, I would suggest partnering with another station to broadcast in HD. That's what ESPN 1000 in the same Chicago market did, and now they broadcast on WSHE HD2. With the removal of AM radio comes the few music stations that are still on the air, including WDIA 1070 in Memphis, which used to broadcast on KJMS HD2, but doesn't anymore for an unknown reason. iHeartRadio, make your call, and that's going to lead into the third and final topic, which is the absolute fiasco that is Memphis radio. If you don't know what's going on, I'll describe it very briefly. FM 100 is a station that has been broadcasting in its current form since 1978 and is listened to by a lot of people. 94.1 The Wolf is a country music station that is not important in any way, shape, or form. The owners of both these stations is a company called Odyssey, which is spelled incorrectly. Odyssey is selling 94.1 The Wolf, so they will move to FM 100. This has caused a fiasco trying to gain the audience that FM 100 previously had. I'm not going to go over what's happened in the months since then, but here's what needs to happen right now, or at least soon. As of right now, Memphis has no classic hits or top 40 station. The only classic hits station in Memphis, 94.1 HD2 of all places. I believe that every market should have at least one station of every format, whether there's one listener or a million listeners, except for maybe adult hits or Spanish language classic Christian alternative rock. Top 40 and classic hits haven't been very successful in Memphis recently, but it's still needed to satisfy listeners of those formats. Even before everything, the classic hits and top 40 formats have been going up in ratings for the past few months. They say that Q107.5 is a top 40 station, and it is a top 40 station if the year was 2021. I don't know how you can both have the tagline,
the #1 hit music station,
and
your home for the 90s,
baby, one more time,
2000s,
I got a feeling,
and today.
I can buy myself flowers.
Q107.5, you need to go full-fledged top 40, mainstream top 40. As for 1430 and 97.7, which was doing a top 40 format, but is now simulcasting Q107.5, you guys need to bring back Guess FM, or at least another classic hits station. Guess FM was a classic hit station that is actually still on the air on 95.3 HD2 and 100.1, except it's now an adult hits format. The adult hits format is not far off from the classic hits, as it includes many hits from the 80s, which is why I said that adult hits isn't that much of a needed format earlier. Once those two stations are fixed, you now have a shiny, squeaky clean Memphis radio market. I personally believe that iHeartRadio was in the right switching 101.9 and 102.7 because they knew they could get the audience from the soon disappearing FM 100 onto KISS FM and its giant signal, and keep their audience from their successful classic rock station by moving to a different, slightly less, well, I wouldn't say slightly, less power frequency. iHeart, you did something good for once. Now put WDIA back on HD. You know what would have prevented this whole thing, Odyssey, is if you put The Wolf on 92.9 ESPN. But nope, you gotta have an increased signal even though there is already another country station broadcasting on 100,000 watts compared to your 50,000. You also know why you should put The Wolf on 92.9? Because ESPN is already available on 680 AM. Yes, we just had this conversation, but HD, you already have it on. That is going to conclude my rants for the day. Be sure to include your comments because I want to know what you think. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Tell me what you think. Let's discuss further. Thank you all for watching.